Hey dudes, what's up? Back again with a bit of a collection display update. This is going to be a kind of a hodgepodge of different things, as you can see right here. This is basically part of one corner of my, and I'm not going to cover those figures yet because I haven't really finalized that display, so I don't even want to get into what's on those top shelves. But this here is Sideshow's Avengers Assemble line of collectible fifth scale statues, which I know breaks from the norm and what everybody's used to from me. And that's I started out this whole thing by getting into statues. It wasn't until later that I got into six scale, and I still do have a fondness for statues. In this case, these Avengers statues, I made the conscious and informed decision to move into this line because of the rampant release of Marvel Cinematic Universe figures from Hot Toys. I couldn't financially keep up, and I decided that I needed to limit myself, which a lot of people would just be like, this is you limiting yourself, Terry? Yes, it is. This is really where I want to draw the line. With this, I'm able to basically capture everything that I love about the Avengers in the comic books, which is where I was first introduced to them back in the 80s. And Sideshow has done what I consider to be a remarkable job of capturing everything that I feel when I read, or everything that I felt when I read those Avengers comic books back in the days. The heroism, everything, the costumes, the artistry, it's just all encapsulated in three dimensionals with this whole lineup. This is the complete lineup as of right now. To be honest, I'm not up to date. I don't know if they've announced sales for the subsequent figures, which one of them is going to be Black Panther and the other one is going to be Black Widow. I don't know if there are any more in the works. No one has said anything to me. So far we have, as you see, Captain America, the Wasp, Thor, Hulk, and Iron Man. Iron Man has a really awesome light up feature that I haven't activated because activating light up features is not something that I do. I find them annoying for the most part, and I never display them, I never turn them on. It's primarily for people who want to hardwire them later so that they can turn them on with a flick of a switch, or for people who just want to show off occasionally when somebody wants to come in. And that's fine. I think that's totally cool. I just don't ever have anybody over. A lot of people gave some heat to this exclusive bit that comes with the Wasp, a little tiny version of her, shrunken down. But what I've discovered since I got it is that if you display it properly, then what you're catching there, if you can see this line that kind of forms from her growing or growth line that comes from below her, that little blue area there, if you display them properly, it kind of has the same effect that you get in a comic book where they're trying to do a sequence of her ever enlarging form when she's growing from her wasp form to the fully fledged Janet Van Dyne form. So I think that's a total success. I really dig it. But moving along, most of these, three of these are exclusives. The three on the left are exclusives. The two on the right are not. I'm fine with that. I would have no use for an exclusive portrait for the Iron Man or for the Hulk. This is the portrait that I really dig for the Hulk. So let's get beyond these statues and move back to the back. Massive fan of Swamp Thing, and I have been ever since my friend Mark Maurer introduced me to him in the early 80s. I came on board right at the beginning of the American Gothic storyline. And anybody who's read that knows how the quality that goes into it. Bernie Wrightson was not a artist that I became acquainted with until much later, and didn't learn to appreciate until later still. Now that I've become exposed to his art, I treasure it. I think that his work is phenomenal. I think that he's probably been missed for much longer than he's been gone. I don't think we'll ever see his like again. Moving beyond that, back here is my recent reprint hardcover extra-sized edition of the Silver Surfer miniseries by Stan Lee and Mobius. Love this book. It's a great take on the character, one of my favorite characters from the Marvel Universe. Continuing on, hello Hulk. Behind my Silver Surfer Black, which is due to be sent off for grading, I have my Star Wars Artifact Edition, which is autographed by Howard Chaykin. Howard lived in my neighborhood when I was living in Ventura, California. We ran into each other on occasion. He recognized me before I recognized him, oddly enough. He autographed this for me at a local comic book shop, which is now known as In-Game Comics and Collectibles, my favorite comic shop in Ventura. And there are 3 comic shops in the tiny California town of Ventura. I consider it tiny. Other people may not. Moving beyond, a lot of guitar cases in the corner. Those have to be shipped out. I'm going to get a detop in there, I think. This is a mask of one of the Nameless Ghouls from Ghost, the Swedish rock band. You either love them or hate them. Guarantee it. This is by Trick or Treat Studios out of San Diego. I believe it's the only licensed collectible for a Nameless Ghoul mask at this time, or it was at that time, outside of their website. Moving up, this is a print of some Star Wars art. Oh God, I'm gonna forget the name of the artist right now, but if you can look it up anywhere. But this is one of a limited series of posters. There were 4 that were released at Burger Chef in the Midwest and Burger King elsewhere around the time of the release of A New Hope back in 1977. This was the original copy of this was hanging on my wall as a child. Because I was a child, it was eventually shredded just because I was careless when I was a kid. But I was able to get access to this through a connection who had the original file and get a reprint of it without the crazy. There was once a crazy synopsis on the original posters. There was a synopsis of C-3PO and R2-D2 down on the right. Some of it was, I'm sorry, lower left. Some of that was even inaccurate. I didn't want that in this, and my friend was able to remove it for me and just give me this awesome reprint of a treasured childhood possession. To its left on the wall is a Mythosaurus skull by Regal Robot. I first found out about Regal Robot when I attended Star Wars Celebration in Orlando. And wow, I was floored immediately. I knew that I had to have this in my collection or on my wall. This is a temporary position for it. Eventually, I intend to flesh out my Boba Fett collection to include all of the 6 scale figures that I have, which, for the record, is pretty much all of them. And I'm also going to include such things as, a Boba Fett helmet, the Lego, the Ultimate Lego Slave 1, just all kinds of stuff into just a massive Boba Fett collection. Up above, since I just moved to Charlotte, I went to my first Heroes Con, which is a convention put on by Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, one of the local comic shops, of which there are many. I can't believe that the city was able to sustain so many of them. This is some original artwork by Tom Grinberg, developed exclusively for Heroes Con in Charlotte. And it was given away as a freebie to those of us who purchased a full pass to the entire weekend. I loved it. This is the kind of thing that I would normally just kind of set aside, put into a file or into a portfolio. But because it's so beautiful, I chose to frame it as sort of a memento to my first year as a nerd here in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a lot of stuff going on over here, as you can see, but I'm not going to showcase that until later. Until then, let's just move down. I'm going to comp a squat. On the shelf below the Avengers, we have a modest collection of omnibuy featuring many of my favorite story arcs in Marvel Comics. Realm of Kings, Guardians of the Galaxy, Annihilation, both regular and Conquest. New Avengers, I've still got so many that I've yet to acquire because they've just become so damnably expensive. I'm hoping for re-releases at some point in time. I just don't see it happening. I think they have bigger fish to fry. It's just a massive undertaking to create one of these things, and I think that they'd rather just keep moving forward with what's more timely and more current. Moving beyond that to the more three-dimensional variety of collectibles, this is a Hot Wheels Mach 5 that needs to be dusted. Look at that. My God, I'm a pig. This was for a long time on my desk at my office at my most recent job, and a lot of the guys that came in there, this was the one that received the most threats of theft, if you can believe it. And rightfully so. I just rewatched Speed Racer, the film by the Wachowski brothers, siblings, whatever you want to call them now. And I think I like it even more now than I did when I watched it. It's just such a great film. It captured the essence of the original cartoon more than I could have hoped. If you hate it, if you're a fan of the cartoon, you hated that movie, then you just need to wake up and realize that you're expecting too much. It's at least as good as the original animated series was. I don't know if I called it a comic book just then. I know there's been a comic book, but I never read it. This is something from my childhood. Han on his tauntaun. Could have been Luke on a tauntaun, but I chose Han. I just like that blue coat, even though it wasn't really blue in the movies. It was brown. That's just hanging about. Found it in my mom's attic after she died. It's pretty awesome. Below it, another thing I found in the attic, a Daggett from the original Battlestar Galactica. That's right, this is Muffet 2. It came like this. It didn't wash out over time. When I opened it from the packaging, it was just this light tan color, which is a flaw. You can see the paint on it has seen better days. That's fine, whatever. Moving up. This is, well, might as well just say it. It's a prototype. It was given to me by one of the guys who works for Sideshow, and it is Cortana. I think this was originally meant to be a companion piece, maybe an exclusive piece to the premium format of Master Chief that they released way back in the day. But it never made it beyond the concept phase. This is it. This is as far as it went. This is the only copy of it, and I have it. I rule. Hoorah. Next to that, this is just a cheapie. I just found this at a store and was like, oh yeah, I love that TIE Advanced. I need to have it right now in my life. And now I do. So yeah, very, very cool. It even opens up. There's no Vader in it. More's the pity. He's just off being awesome. Next to that, I found a guy on Etsy who manufactures replicas, facsimiles of the Marshal's badge for Deadwood, because I am a massive enthusiast for that show. Really, really dig it. Don't know if you've taken the time to watch HBO's Deadwood, do so immediately. Next to that is an actual Graflex lightsaber assembled by me. Some of the parts are replicas, other parts are original. It took me years to assemble what I was able to assemble, and I'm really just content to have what I've got. I don't know. I'd probably still be looking right now if I was trying to find original 1970s era T-Track or an actual circuit board from that damned Texas Instruments calculator. I had to settle, ultimately, and that's fine. Oh yeah, I got that backwards. I know it. I don't care. Whatever. It's on my shelf. I dig it. This is a real gem. The Bad Robot statue from Quantum Mechanics that they did many, many years ago. A good friend of mine who used to work for QMX saw me walking into my first San Diego Comic-Con and said, hey, any interest in a Bad Robot statue? Because we have a couple of stragglers left over that we found in the warehouse. We're selling them for retail. At the time, this thing was selling for, I think, a couple $100-$300, something like that. And I was like, yeah. So I bought it. I'll admit, I intended to resell it, and I didn't. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because look at it. It's pretty spectacular. And next to that, for all you Fast and the Furious fans, you know what this is. This is Brian's Toyota Supra from the end of the film. The 5-second car that he owed to Dominic after the original car that he lost in a bet in a race was destroyed. And next to that, this is the first, also in need of cleaning. Good God, why didn't I clean this place before I actually did this video? That's fine. You can see that not everybody's perfect when it comes to taking care of this stuff. If you are neglecting your own, then yeah, you're not alone. I do it too. So yeah, here we go. This is the Naboo N1 Starfighter from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Repainted to more closely approximate the original colors of the original fighter from that film. I still intend to do some awesome weathering for the gun blasts and for the jet engine areas. But as with all things, I'll get around to it when I get around to it, like dusting. Anyway, moving on down. This, by Sideshow, is Throg, the Frog of Thunder. I've been reading The Mighty Thor since Walt Simonson's run back in the day. I remember when this character first appeared, and I was just like, what the hell just happened, and why was it so awesome? Because it was really, really awesome. This one plummeted from a tall shelf and shattered into so many pieces. And I was able to put it back together and correct as much of it as I could. It looks pretty good. I'm totally fine with it being the way that it is. Moving beyond that, this is just a cheap version of the TARDIS from Doctor Who. I have the Big Chief Studios version, but it's massive and my space is limited, so this is what I'm choosing to run with as my display. Batteries are apparently dead in it, but it actually does make sounds and you can do kinds of crazy things with it, but we won't be demonstrating that today. Right below that is a Colonial Viper Mark II keychain from Quantum Mechanics. This is the chrome version of this keychain. Only 5 of these were made. I have one of them. 3 of the others are in the hands of the likes of Jamie Bamber. Oh God, what's her name that played Katie Sackhoff? And Eddie Olmos. So I don't know who has the 5th, but I have number 4 or 5. We'll just call it that. Probably the CEO of Chronicle has it. He's a fan of such things, so he probably has it as well. This is the 11th Doctor's sonic screwdriver. 12th Doctor, comparing on whether or not you count the War Doctor, as made by Roberto Replicas. And yeah, love that. Beyond that are the works of art of a very close friend of mine by the name of Amilcar Fong. He is a Cuban artist living in Argentina, and he would occasionally stop by my studio at Sideshow and give me one of these fantastic sculptures, of which there are 3 now, I believe, but I was only able to acquire these 2. Next to that, this is just holding its place here. This is an original Sideshow Darth Sidious with his Mechno chair. It's sitting out right now because it's waiting to be included in a video of the Darth Maul 6-scale figure by Hot Toys. When I opened it up to see what kind of shape it was in, I was immediately about knocked out by the off-gassing. I don't know if anybody else out there has this figure, but please let me know if you're experiencing this as well, because there is just so much going on with this stench. I mean, it was just overpowering. It overpowered the whole room, so I just left it out and just let it continue off-gassing. You can see that it's just kind of oxidized. The clear plastic has kind of oxidized through here. I'm sure that there's a way that I can remove that. I once did a process for my car headlights that removed a similar oxidation. I think I can do it with this as well. I'm just trying to decide if it's worth it or not. Moving beyond, this is Mort of the Dead, an original creation of Sideshow Collectibles. More to the point, an original creation of my good friend Dennis, who has been working for Sideshow since long before I even knew they existed. Maybe not that long, but he's been working for Sideshow since long before I did. His creation, Mort of the Dead, was a comic zombie character used to market their range of undead 6-scale figures, zombie 6-scale figures. Fantastic range of figures. I really would like to see Mort brought back. I think that he has a lot to contribute. They could use him as sort of a comic relief character to, well, there's what's that line that they have now? Court of the Dead? Yeah, I've got a statue from it. Might have contributed to it in some way. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. Annihilators, yeah, love that. But anyway, right next to this is one of my most treasured possessions. My wife's friend Heather made this for me and gave it to me for my birthday. It's basically cross-stitch, Rebel insignia with Rebel scum written below it. This has, no matter what else happens, I will always find a place for this on a shelf. Just really quick rundown, you can see that I've got quite a few more of my favorite graphic novels down here. And just on the floor, who's upset for not being included, as you can see, is Bumblebee from 3A. And yes, he is legitimately standing on the floor, so I've got to find a spot for this guy soon. That's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this 20-minute walkthrough. That's obnoxious. Okay, well, if you made it through, kudos to you. If not, I don't blame you whatsoever. This is just a nerd showing off his shit. Hope you all enjoyed this. See you next time, and until then, you know the drill. Be good to your plastic.